Shakespeare's Histories, The Queen's Storm, Episode 12. Richard of Gloucester's plan to wrest the crown of England from his brother Edward IV has succeeded at every step. He has imprisoned Edward's two young sons, next in line to the throne, in the Tower, and had their family members and loudest supporters executed. With assistance from the Duchess Buckingham, Richard now celebrates his coronation day. But as he reaches the height of his power, the security of the York dynasty begins crumbling. Richard's violent and illegal actions have prompted some to search for another claimant to the crown.
This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this dear, dear land, this precious stone set in the silver sea, this England, this earth of majesty, this England, this earth of majesty.
Stand all apart! Cousin of Buckingham,
My gracious sovereign.
give me thy hand. Thus high, by thy advice and thy assistance, is King Richard seated. But shall we wear these glories for a day, or shall they last, and we rejoice in them?
Still live they, and forever may they last.
Young Edward lives. Think now what I would say?
Say on, my loving lord.
Why, Buckingham, I say I would be king.
Why, so you are, my thrice renowned liege.
Am I king?
Ave res. Ave res.
Ha, 'tis so. But Edward lives.
True, noble prince.
Oh, bitter consequence, that Edward still should live, true noble prince. Cousin, thou wast not wont to be so dull. Shall I be plain? I wish the bastard's dead.
Give me some little breath, some pause, dear lord, before I positively speak in this. I will resolve you herein presently.
The deep revolving, witty Buckingham no more shall be the neighbor to my counsels. Hath she so long held out with me, untired, and stops she now for breath? Well, be it so. How now, Lady Stanley, what's the news?
No, my loving lord, the Marquis Dorset, as I hear, is fled to Richmond in the parts where he abides.
Catesby!
My lord.
Rumor it abroad that Anne, my wife, is very grievous sick. I will take order for her keeping close. About it! For it stands me much upon to stop all hopes whose growth may damage me. I must be married to my brother's daughter, or else my kingdom stands on brittle glass. Murder her brothers and then marry her. Uncertain way of gain, but I am in so far in blood that sin will pluck on sin. Is thy name Tyrrell?
James Tyrrell, and your most obedient subject.
Art thou indeed?
Prove me, my gracious lord.
Darest thou resolve to kill a friend of mine?
Please you, but I had rather kill two enemies.
Why, there thou hast it. Two deep enemies, foes to my rest and my sweet sleep's disturbers, Tyrrell. I mean those bastards in the Tower.
Let me have open means to come to them, and soon I'll rid you from the fear of them.
Thou sings sweet music. Hark, come hither, Tyrrell. Go by this token. Rise and lend thine ear. There is no more but so. Say it is done, and I will love thee and prefer thee for it.
'Tis done, my gracious lord.
My lord, I have considered in my mind the late request that you did sound me in.
Well, let that pass. Dorset is fled to Richmond.
I hear that news, my
Stanley,
lord.
he is your wife's son. Well, look unto it.
My lord, I claim the gift, my due by promise, for which your honor and your faith is pawned, the earldom of Hereford and the movables which you have promised that I should possess.
I do remember me Henry VI did prophesy that Richmond should be king.
His head by nature's frame to wear a crown.
How chanced the prophet could not at that time have told me, I being by, that I should kill him?
My lord,
Aye, what's o'clock?
I am thus bold to put your grace in mind of what you promised
Well,
me
but what's o'clock?
upon the stroke of 10.
Well, let it strike.
Why let it strike?
Because that, like a jack, thou keeps the stroke betwixt thy begging and my meditation. I am not in the giving vein today.
And is it thus? Repays he my deep service with such contempt? Might I him king for this? Oh, let me think on Hastings and be gone to Brecknock while my fearful head is on.
Henry Tudor, the Earl of Richmond, begins to gather supporters. As a child, he took refuge in Brittany during the War of the Roses. Now a young man, he puts forth a claim to the English throne. He is distantly related to the Lancastrian line, as his mother is an illegitimate granddaughter of John of Gaunt. King Richard III looks to solidify his position as the Yorkist heir and has his 2 young nephews murdered.
The tyrannous and bloody act is done. The most arch deed of piteous massacre that ever yet this land was guilty of. Dighton and Forrest, whom I did suborn to do this piece of ruthless butchery, wept like 2 children in their death's sad story. Hence both are gone with conscience and remorse. They could not speak, and so I left them both to bear this tidings to the bloody king.
Kind Tyrrell, am I happy in thy news?
If to have done the thing you gave in charge beget your happiness, be happy then, for it is done, my lord.
Come to me, Tyrrell, soon at after supper, and thou shalt tell the process of their death. Meantime, but think how I may do thee good. Farewell till then.
I humbly take my leave.
The sons of Edward sleep in Abraham's bosom, and Anne my wife hath bid this world good night. Now, for I know the Breton Richmond aims at young Elizabeth, my brother's daughter, and by that knot looks proudly o'er the crown. To her I go, a jolly thriving wooer.
My lord!
Good or bad news that thou comest in so bluntly?
Bad news, my lord. Morton is fled to Richmond, and Buckingham, backed with the hardy Welshman, is in the field, and still her power increaseth.
Go, muster troops! My counsel is my shield. We must be brief when traitors brave the field.
Once again, competing factions of the English nobility gather soldiers and prepare for battle. Robbed of her husband, her son, and her crown in the War of the Roses, the former Lancastrian queen, Margaret, awaits the reciprocal downfall of the House of York.
So now prosperity begins to mellow and drop into the rotten mouth of death. Here in these confines slyly have I lurked to watch the waning of mine enemies. Withdraw thee, wretched Marguerite. Who comes here?
My poor princess! Oh, my tender babes! If yet your gentle souls fly in the air and be not fixed in doom perpetual, hover about me with your airy wings, and hear your mother's lamentation.
So many miseries have crazed my voice, that my woe-wearied tongue is mute and dumb. Edward Plantagenet, why art thou dead?
Plantagenet doth quit Plantagenet. Edward for Edward pays a dying debt.
Wilt thou, O God, fly from such gentle lambs, and throw them in the entrails of the wolf? When didst thou sleep when such a deed was done?
When holy Harry died, and my sweet son.
Woe seen, world shame, poor mortal living ghost, rest thy unrest on England's lawful earth, unlawfully made drunk with innocence' blood.
Oh, that thou wouldst as soon afford a grave as thou canst yield a melancholy seat. Oh, who hath any cause to mourn but we?
If sorrow can admit society, Tell o'er your woes again by viewing mine. I had an Edward till a Richard killed him. I had a husband till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst an Edward till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst a Richard till a Richard killed him.
I had a Richard too, and thou didst kill him. I had a Rutland too, thou hopedst to kill him.
Thou hadst a Clarence too, and Richard killed him. From forth the kennel of thy womb hath crept a hellhound that doth hunt us all to death. O upright, just, and true disposing God, how do I thank thee that this carnal cur preys on the issue of his mother's body, and makes her pew-fellow with others' moan?
O Harry's wife, triumph not in my woes. God witness with me, I have wept for thine.
Bear with me. I am hungry for revenge, and now I cloy me with beholding it. Thy Edward, he is dead that killed my Edward. Thy other Edward dead to quit my Edward. Young York, he is but boot, because both they matched not the high perfection of my laws. Thy Clarence, he is dead that stabbed my Edward. Richard yet lives, hell's foul intelligencer. Cancel his bond of life, dear God, I pray, that I may live to say the dog is dead.
Oh, thou didst prophesy the time would come, that I should wish for thee to help me curse that bottled spider, that foul bunch-backed toad.
I called thee then vain flourish of my fortune. I called thee then poor shadow, painted queen, the presentation of but what I was. A mother only mocked with two fair babes, a queen in jest only to fill the scene. Where is thy husband now? Where be thy brothers? Where are thy children? Wherein dost thou joy? Decline all this and see what now thou art. For happy wife, a most distressed widow. For joyful mother, one that wails the name. For queen, a very caitiff, crowned with care. For she commanding all, obeyed of none. Thus hath the course of justice whirled about, and left thee but a very prey to time, having no more but thought of what thou wert, to torture thee the more, being what thou art. Thou didst usurp my place, and dost thou not usurp the just proportion of my sorrow? Now thy proud neck bears half my burdened yoke, from which even here I slip my wearied head, and leave the burden of it all on thee. Farewell, York's wife, and queen of sad mischance. These English woes shall make me smile in France.
O thou well skilled in curses, stay a while, and teach me how to curse mine enemies.
Forbear to sleep the nights, and fast the days. Compare dead happiness with living woe. Think that thy babes were sweeter than they were, and he that slew them fouler than he is. Bettering thy loss makes the bad causer worse. Revolving this will teach thee how to curse.
My words are dull, oh, quicken them with thine.
Thy woes will make them sharp and pierce like mine.
Why should calamity be full of
Let
words?
them have scope. Though what they will impart help nothing else, yet do they ease the heart.
If so, then be not tongue-tied. Go with me, and in the breath of bitter words, let's smother my damned son that thy two sweet sons smothered.
Who
intercepts me in my expedition?
Oh, she that might have intercepted thee by strangling thee in her accursed womb from all the slaughters, wretch, that thou hast done.
Tell me, thou villain wretch, where are my children?
Thou toad, where is thy brother,
Where
Clarence?
is the gentle Rivers and Grey?
Where is kind Hastings?
Flourish, trumpets! Strike alarum drums! Let not the heavens hear these telltale women rail on the Lord's anointed. Strike, I say!
Art thou my son?
I thank God, my father, and yourself.
Then patiently hear my impatience.
Madam, I have a touch of your condition that cannot brook the accent of reproof.
I will be mild and gentle in my words.
And brief, good mother, for I am in haste.
Art thou so hasty? I have stayed for thee, God knows, in torment and in agony.
And came I not at last to comfort you?
Thou camest on earth to make the earth my hell. Oh, grievous burden was thy birth to me. Tetchy and wayward was thy infancy. Thy school days frightful, desperate, wild, and furious. Thy prime of manhood daring, bold, and venturous. Thy age confirmed, proud, subtle, sly, and bloody. What comfortable hour canst thou name that ever graced me in thy company?
If I be so disgracious in your eye, let me march on and not offend you, madam. Strike up the drums!
Hear me a word, for I shall never speak to thee again.
So?
Either thou wilt die by God's just ordinance ere from this war thou turn a conqueror, or I with grief and extreme age shall perish, and never more behold thy face again. Therefore take with thee my most grievous curse. My prayers on the adverse party fight, and there the little souls of Edward's children whisper the spirits of thine enemies and promise them success and victory. Bloody thou art, bloody will be thy end. Shame serves thy life, and doth thy death attend.
Though far more cause, yet much less spirit to curse abides in me. I say amen to all.
Stay, madam. I must speak a word with you.
I have no more sons of the royal blood for thee to slaughter. For my daughters, Richard, they shall be praying nuns, not weeping queens, and therefore level not to hit their lives.
You have a daughter called Elizabeth, virtuous and fair, royal and gracious.
Must she die for this? Oh, let her live, and I'll corrupt her manners, stain her beauty, slander myself as false to Edward's bed. So she may live unscarred of bleeding slaughter, I will confess she was not Edward's daughter.
Wrong not her birth, she is of royal blood.
To save her life, I'll say she is not so.
Her life is only safest in her birth.
And only in that safety died her brothers.
Lo, at their births good stars were opposite.
No, to their lives bad friends were contrary.
You speak as if that I had slain my cousins.
Cousins, indeed, and by their uncle cozened, of comfort, kingdom, kindred, freedom, life. No doubt the murderous knife was dull and blunt till it was whetted on thy stone-hard heart.
Madam, so thrive I in my enterprise and dangerous success of bloody wars, as I intend more good to you and yours than ever you or yours by me were harmed.
What good is covered with the face of a heaven to be discovered that can do me good?
The advancement of your children, gentle lady.
Up to some scaffold there to lose their heads.
Unto the dignity and height of fortune, the high imperial type of this earth's glory. I mean that with my soul I love thy daughter, and do intend to make her Queen of England.
Say then, who dost thou mean shall be her king?
Even he that makes her queen, who should be else?
What thou?
E'en so, what think you of it, madam?
How canst thou woo her?
That would I learn of you, as one being best acquainted with her
And
humor.
wilt thou learn of me?
Madam, with all my heart.
Therefore, present to her as sometime Margaret did to thy father, steeped in Rutland's blood, a handkerchief, which say to her, did drain the purple sap from her sweet brother's body, and bid her wipe her weeping eyes withal. Tell her thou madest away her uncle Clarence, her uncle Rivers, Aye, and for her sake, madest quick conveyance with her good Aunt Anne.
You mock me, madam. This is not the way to win your daughter.
There is no other way. Unless thou couldst put on some other shape, and not be Richard that hath done all this.
Look, what is done cannot be now amended. If I did take the kingdom from your sons, to make amends, I'll give it to your daughter. If I have killed the issue of your womb to quicken your increase, I will beget mine issue of your blood upon your daughter. Your children were vexation to your youth, but mine shall be a comfort to your age. Go then, my mother, to thy daughter go. Make bold her bashful years with your experience. Prepare her ears to hear a wooer's tale.
What were I best to say? Her father's brother would be her lord, or shall I say her uncle? Or he that slew her brothers and her uncles? Under what title shall I woo for thee, that God, the law, my honor, and her love can make seem pleasing to her tender years?
Infer fair England's peace by this alliance.
Which she shall purchase with still lasting war.
Say she shall be a high and mighty queen.
To wail the title as her mother doth?
Say I will love her everlastingly.
But how long shall that title ever last?
Sweetly enforce unto her fair life's end.
But how long fairly shall her sweet life last?
As long as heaven and nature lengthens it.
As long as hell and Richard likes of it.
Your reasons are too shallow and too quick.
Oh no! My reasons are too deep and dead. Too deep and dead, poor infants in their graves.
Harp not on that string, madam. That is past.
Harp on it still shall I till heartstrings break.
Now, by my George, my garter, and my crown.
Profaned, dishonored, and the third usurped.
Then by myself.
Thyself is self-misused.
Now, by the world.
'Tis full of thy foul wrongs.
My father's death.
Thy life hath it dishonored. What canst thou swear by now?
The time to come.
That thou hast wronged in the time or past.
The children live whose parents thou hast slaughtered. The parents live whose children thou hast butchered. Swear not by time to come. For that thou hast misused ere used, by times ill-used or past.
Heaven and fortune bar me happy hours. Day, yield me not thy light, nor night thy rest. Be opposite all planets of good luck to my proceedings, if with pure heart's love I tender not thy beauteous, princely daughter. In her consists my happiness and thine. Without her follows to this land and me, to thee, herself and many a Christian soul, death, desolation, ruin, and decay. It cannot be avoided but by this. It will not be avoided but by this. Therefore, dear mother, I must call you so. Be the attorney of my love to her. Plead what I will be, not what I have been. Not my deserts, but what I will deserve.
Shall I be tempted of the devil thus?
Aye, if the devil tempt you to do good.
Shall I go win my daughter to thy will?
And be a happy mother by the deed.
I go. Write to me very shortly, and you shall understand from me her mind.
Bear her my true love's kiss. And so, farewell. Relenting fool. Shallow, changing woman. How now, what news?
Most mighty sovereign, on the western coast rideth the puissant navy. 'Tis thought that Richmond is their admiral, and there they hull, expecting but the aid of Buckingham to welcome them ashore.
Some lightfoot friend post to the Duke of Norfolk, Ratcliffe thyself, or Catesby, where is he?
Here, my good lord.
Catesby, fly to the Duke. Ratcliffe, come hither. Post to Salisbury, when thou comest thither. Dull, unmindful villain, why standst thou still and goes not to the Duke?
First, mighty liege, tell me your highness' pleasure. What from your grace I shall deliver to him.
Oh, true, good Catesby. Bid him levy straight the greatest strength and power he can make, and meet me presently at Salisbury.
I go.
What, may it please you, shall I do at Salisbury?
Why, what wouldst thou do there before I go?
Your highness told me I should post before.
My mind is changed. Stanley, what news with you?
Richmond is on the seas.
White-livered runagate, what doth he there?
I know not, mighty sovereign, but by guess.
Well, as you guess?
He makes for England, here to claim the crown.
Ha! Is the king dead? The empire unpossessed? What heir of York is there alive but we? And who is England's king but great York's heir? Thou wilt revolt and fly to him, I fear.
No, mighty liege, therefore mistrust me not.
Where is thy power, then, to beat him back? Are they not now upon the western shore, safe conducting the rebels from their ships?
No, my good lord, my friends are in the north.
Cold friends to me! What do they in the north when they should serve their sovereign in the west?
They have not been commanded, mighty king. Please it your majesty to give me leave. I'll muster up my friends and meet your grace where and what time your majesty shall please.
Go, then, and muster troops. But leave behind your son, George Stanley. Look your heart be firm, or else his head's assurance is but frail.
So deal with him as I prove true to you.
My gracious sovereign, now in Devonshire, Sir Edward Courtney, and the haughty prelate, Bishop of Exeter, his elder brother, with many more confederates are in arms.
In Kent, my liege, the Guildfords are in arms, and every hour more competitors flock to the rebels, and their power grows strong.
My lord, the army of great Buckingham.
Out on you, owls! Nothing but songs of death! There! Take thou that till thou bring better news.
The news I have to tell your majesty is that by sudden floods and fall of waters, Buckingham's army is dispersed and scattered.
Oh. I cry you mercy, I did mistake. Ratcliffe, reward him for the blow I gave him. March on. March on, since we are up in arms. If not to fight with foreign enemies, yet to beat down these rebels here at home.
My liege, the Duchess Buckingham is taken. That is the best news. That the Earl of Richmond is with a mighty power landed at Milford is colder news, but yet they must be told.
Away toward Salisbury! While we reason here, a royal battle might be won and lost. Someone take order Buckingham be brought to Salisbury. The rest, march on with me.
Richmond crosses the seas with a fleet and lands in Wales, accompanied by the Countess Oxford and Lady Blunt, two supporters of the House of Lancaster. Lady Stanley meets with her wife's chaplain in order to send a message to her stepson.
Sir Christopher, tell Richmond this from me, that in the sty of the most deadly boar, my son George Stanley is franked up in hold. If I revolt, off goes young George's head. The fear of that holds off my present aid. Withal say that the Queen hath heartily consented he should espouse Elizabeth her daughter. But tell me, where is princely Richmond now?
At Pembroke, or at Harford West in Wales.
Well, hie thee to thy lord. I kiss his hand. My letter will resolve him of my mind. Farewell.
Buckingham raises a militia from her estates in Wales and attempts to march against Richard, but she is captured by Ratcliffe near Salisbury and charged with treason.
Will not King Richard let me speak with him?
No, my good lady, therefore be patient.
This is All Souls' Day, fellow, is it not?
It is, my lady.
And All Souls' Day is my body's doomsday. This is the day that in King Edward's time I wished might fall on me, when I was found false to his children and his wife's allies. This is the day wherein I wish to fall by the false faith of him I trusted most. That high all-seer which I dallied with hath turned my feigned prayer on my head, and given in earnest what I begged in jest. Thus, Margaret's curse falls heavy on my neck. When he, quoth she, shall split thy heart with sorrow, remember Margaret was a prophetess. Come, lead me, officers, to the block of shame. Wrong hath but wrong, and blame the due of blame.
fellows in arms, and my most loving friends, thus far into the bowels of the land have we marched on without impediment. And here receive we from our mother Stanley lines of fair comfort and encouragement.
Everyone's conscience is 1,000 men to fight against this guilty homicide.
I doubt not, but his friends will turn to us.
All for our vantage. Then in God's name march, to reap the harvest of perpetual peace by this one bloody trial of sharp war. True hope is swift, and flies with swallows' wings. Kings it makes gods, and meaner creatures kings.
Henry Tudor, the Earl of Richmond, marches into central England with his forces, intent on challenging Richard III for the throne. As night falls, the two armies camp across the field from each other, preparing to battle in the morning.
Here pitch our tents, even here in Bosworth Field. Norfolk, we must have knocks. Must we not?
We must both give and take, my loving lord.
Up with my tent. Here will I lie tonight. But where tomorrow? Well, all's one for that. Who hath descried the number of the traitors?
6,000 or 7,000 is their utmost power.
Why, our battalion trebles that account. Besides, the king's name is a tower of strength, which they upon the adverse faction want. Up with my tent there. Valiant gentlemen, let us survey the vantage of the field. Let's lack no discipline, make no delay, for lords, tomorrow is a busy day.
Give me some ink and paper in my tent. I'll draw the form and model of our battle. Yet one thing more, good captain, do for me. Where is Lady Stanley quartered, do you know?
Her regiment lies half a mile at least south from the mighty power of the king.
If without peril it be possible, brave Blunt, make some good means to speak with her, and give her from me this most needful note.
Upon my life, my lord, I'll undertake it. And so, God give you quiet rest tonight.
What is the clock?
It's supper time, my lord. It's 9 o'clock.
I will not sup tonight. Give me some ink and paper. What is my helmet easier than it was? And all my armor laid into my tent?
It is, my liege, and all things are in readiness.
Good Norfolk, hie thee to thy charge. Use careful watch. Choose trusty sentinels.
I go, my lord.
Catesby,
my lord.
Send out a pursuivant at arms to Stanley's regiment. Bid her bring her power before sunrising, lest her son George fall into the blind cave of eternal night. Ratcliffe, about the mid of night, come to my tent and help to arm me. Leave me, I say.
Fortune and victory sit on thy helm.
All comfort that the dark night can afford be to thy person, noble stepmother. Tell me, how fares thy wife, our mother?
I by attorney bless thee from the countess, who prays continually for Richmond's good. So much for that. The silent hours steal on. Prepare thy battle early in the morning. I, as I may, that which I would I cannot, with best advantage will deceive the time and aid thee in this doubtful shock of arms. But on thy side I may not be too forward, lest, being seen, thy brother, tender George, be executed in his mother's sight. Farewell, my son. Be valiant, and speed well.
Good friends, conduct her to her regiment. I'll strive with troubled thoughts to take a nap, lest leaden slumber weigh me down tomorrow, when I should mount with wings of victory. Once more, good night, kind friends and gentle kin. O thou, whose captain I count myself, look on my forces with a gracious eye, that we may praise thee in the victory. To thee I do commend my watchful soul, ere I let fall the windows of mine eyes. Sleeping and waking, oh, defend me still.
King Henry's is Sherry the Sixth. Poor Clara Rivers that died at Pomfret. Think upon Grey.
Think on Lady Hastings. Dream on thy cousins. That wretched Anne, thy wife. Think on Buckingham.
Think how thou stabbedst me in my prime of youth at Tewkesbury. My anointed body by thee was punctured full of deadly holes. I that was washed to death with fulsome wine. Dream on thy cousins, smothered in the tower.
Bloody and guilty, guiltily awake, and in a bloody battle end thy days.
Despair and die!
Tomorrow in the battle think on me, and fall thy edgeless sword.
Despair and die!
Dream on. Dream on of bloody deeds and death. Fainting, despair, despairing, yield thy breath.
Despair and die! Be cheerful, Richmond!
Harry, that prophesied thou shouldst be king, doth comfort thee in thy sleep.
Live and flourish!
God and good angels fight on Richmond's side.
And Richard falls in height of all his pride.
Give me another horse. Bind up my wounds. Have mercy, Jesu! Soft. I did but dream. Oh, coward conscience! How dost thou afflict me? What? Do I fear myself? There's none else by. Richard loves Richard. That is, I am I.
Is there a murderer here?
No?
Yes, I am. Then fly.
What? From myself?
Great reason why. Lest I revenge.
What? Myself upon myself? Alack, I love myself.
Wherefore? For any good that I myself have done unto myself?
Oh. No. Alas, I rather hate myself for hateful deeds committed by myself. I am a villain. Yet I lie, I am not. Fool of thyself, speak well.
Fool, do not flatter.
My conscience hath 1,000 several tongues, and every tongue brings in a several tale, and every tale condemns me for a villain.
Methought the souls of all that I had murdered came to my tent, and every one did threat tomorrow's vengeance on the head of Richard.
My lord.
Zounds, who's there?
Ratcliffe, my lord, 'tis I. Your friends are up and buckle on their armor.
Oh, Ratcliffe. I have dreamed a fearful dream. What thinkest thou? Will our friends prove all true?
No doubt, my lord.
Oh, Ratcliffe. I fear. I fear.
Nay, good my lord. Be not afraid of shadows.
By the Apostle Paul, shadows tonight have struck more terror to the soul of Richard than can the substance of 10,000 soldiers armed in proof and led by shallow Richmond.
Good morrow, Richmond. Have you slept, my lord?
The sweetest sleep and fairest boding dreams that ever entered in a drowsy head. How far into the morning is it, friends?
Upon the stroke of 4.
Why, then 'tis time to arm and give direction. More than I have said, loving patriots, the leisure and enforcement of the time forbids to dwell upon. Yet remember this: God and our good cause fight upon our side. Richard except, those whom we fight against had rather have us win than him they follow. For what is he they follow? Truly, gentle friends, a bloody tyrant and a homicide, one that hath ever been God's enemy. Then, if you fight against God's enemy, God will in justice ward you as his soldiers. Advance your standards, draw your willing swords. For me, the ransom of my bold attempt shall be this cold corpse on the earth's cold face. But if I thrive, the gain of my attempt the least of you shall share a part thereof. Sound drums and trumpets, boldly and cheerfully. God and St. George, Richmond and victory!
Arm, my lord! The foe vaunts in the field!
Come, bustle, bustle! Caparison, my horse! Go, gentlemen, every one unto their charge. Let not our babbling dreams affright our souls. For conscience is but a word that cowards use, devised at first to keep the strong in awe. Our strong arms be our conscience, swords our law. March on, join bravely, Let us to it, pell-mell. If not to heaven, then hand in hand to hell. What shall I say more than I have inferred? Remember whom you are to cope with all, a sort of vagabonds, rascals, and runaways, whom their Orcloid country vomits forth to desperate ventures and assured destruction. If we be conquered, let men conquer us, and not these bastard Bretons whom our fathers have in their own land beaten, bobbed, and thumped. What says Lady Stanley? Will she bring her power?
My lord, she doth deny to come.
Off with her son George's head!
My lord, the enemy is past the marsh. After the battle, let George Stanley die.
Advance our standards, set up on our foes, upon them! Victory sits on our helms!
The vanguards of the two armies engage. Henry's led by Oxford, and Richard's led by Norfolk. Richard and his household knights skirt around the main action and charge directly at Henry Tudor. Though he cuts down Richmond's standard, Richard is soon surrounded.
Rescue, my lord of Norfolk! Rescue! Rescue! The king enacts more wonders than a man. His horse is slain, and all on foot he fights. Rescue, fair lord, or else the day is lost.
A horse! Ah, a horse! My kingdom for a horse!
Withdraw, my lord. I'll help you to a horse.
I have set my life upon a cast, and I will stand the hazard of the die. I think there be 6 Richmonds in the field. 5 have I slain today instead of him. A horse! A horse! My kingdom for a horse!
Richard's knights all die around him, but he continues fighting. He comes within a sword's length of Richmond, but is surrounded by Stanley's troops and killed.
All come to you and yours as to this prince.
Victorious at the Battle of Bosworth, Henry Tudor has won the War of the Roses for the Lancastrian side and is now the undisputed King of England. Richmond sees his destiny laid out before him. He will be crowned King Henry VII, unite the houses of York and Lancaster, and be praised throughout England for his wise and mighty rule.
Oh, that we might read the book of fate, see the revolution of our time, ere the continent melts itself into the sea. God and your arms be praised, victorious friends. The day is ours! The bloody dog is dead!
Courageous Richmond, well hast thou acquit thee. Lo, here this long usurped royalty from the dead temples of this bloody wretch have I plucked off to grace thy brows withal. Wear it, enjoy it, and make much of it.
But tell me, is young George Stanley living?
He is, my lord, and safe in Leicester town.
But who of name are slain on either side?
John, Duke of Norfolk, Walter, Lord Ferrers, the Lady Brackenbury, and Sir William Brandon.
Inter their bodies as becomes their births. Proclaim a pardon to the soldiers fled, that in submission will return to us, and then, as we obtain the sacrament, we will unite the white rose and the red. Smile, heaven, upon this fair conjunction that long have frowned upon their enmity. England hath long been mad and scarred herself. The brother blindly shed the brother's blood. The father rashly slaughtered his own son. The son, compelled, been butcher to the sire. All this divided York and Lancaster, divided in their dire division. Oh, now let Richmond and Elizabeth, the true succeeders of each royal house, by God's fair ordinance conjoin together, and let their heirs, God, if thy will be so, enrich the time to come with smooth-faced peace, with smiling plenty and fair prosperous days. Abate the edge of traitors, gracious Lord. Let them not live to taste this land's increase, that would with treason wound this fair land's peace.
I wonder if this blade ever ran through someone's side.
Now civil wounds are stopped,
the blood wiped away to hide.
Peace lives again.
How evil your grandfather was, for he died.
That she may long live here, God say Amen.
But war can make monsters out of us all. I'm sure I'd become one if I was called, and then it would be my blade here at this yard sale.
$1 for anything here on this quilt.
A price tag for hands from which all things are built.
A blanket of voices speak pleasure in shame.
Roses of plastic and fruit of the same.
A basket of nothing at all here at this yard sale. So if I had the money, I'd buy everything and cover the whole lot with good gasoline and burn it for all that I care for the past, and rid Mother Earth of what never should last, and give her the present of ash
made of a yard sale.
You've been listening to Shakespeare's Histories, Season 2, The Queen's Storm, presented by Brave Spirits Theatre.
Shakespeare's Histories is directed by Charlene V. Smith.
The recording producer and editor is Patrick Flynn.
With dramaturgy and additional directing by Marshall B. Garrett.
Dramaturgy and additional directing by Claire Kimball.
And dramaturgy by Liam Thomas Daly.
The acting company for Shakespeare's Histories is
Mikey Bannigan,
Zach Brewstergeist,
Jordan Brown,
Dean Carlson,
Jacqueline Chenault,
Gary Dubriel,
Brianna Good,
Lisa Hill Corley,
Thomas Howley,
Caroline Johnson,
Brendan Edward Kennedy,
Annette Mooney,
Victoria Reinsel,
Dwayne Richards,
Jillian Reedy,
Ian Blackwell Rogers,
Nicole Ruth Marie, Charlene V. Smith,
John Stang,
Molly E. Thomas,
and Joshua Williams.
The composer and music director is Jordan Friend.
The dialect coach is Jenna Burke.
The production manager for Shakespeare's Histories is Lisa Hill Corley.
The stage manager is Jen Katz.
The audio recordings of Shakespeare's Histories were made possible through funding from the Nora Roberts Foundation, the City of Alexandria, the Morgan Fund at the Seattle Foundation, the Virginia Commission for the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Learn more about Brave Spirits Theater by visiting our website at www.bravespiritstheater.com.